Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Raw Knuckles Podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe. You know, when you get around hockey guys again, it's just, there's that feeling,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
When you get around hockey guys, there's just a feeling that can't explain it to anybody, but it's there. I don't care. You can be around guys you never played with and feel that. I know I have, and it's special.
When I stepped on the ice, I never backed down and I never stayed down.
And I was vicious and I was malicious, and I don't care.
I'm alive. He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town.
I really appreciate you joining us today. No question about that. From Elk River, Minnesota, northwest of Minneapolis. How far out of Minneapolis are you?
It's
Elk
about
River.
45 minutes, Elk River.
Where's your statue at? Where did they put your statue at?
It's difficult because you have Joel Otto, home Elk River.
Otts is Elk River?
Joel Otto, and so he was a big mentor of mine. Danny Heinold, a little more, won a cup in Colorado. So you have two Elk Rivers guys with cups, and I didn't. So there's no way that they're putting me up on a wall or anything like that.
Hey, you're going to like this. Joel Otto and I played for Team USA in the Canada Cup. Badger Bob was our coach. And I'll never forget the day I made the team. They cut Brett Hull, who was pissed, but he was fat and out of shape. And Badger Bob didn't like that. He was fat and out of shape. And they kept me, and they cut him. And he didn't like me for that because I made the team over him, Brett Hull. Fat fuck. So, So me and Otts were on the ice and we're stretching out, and Badger Bob's going, great day for hockey, great day for hockey. He's going, and today, you know, we got two guys that are going to be a big part of this team, Joe Otto and Knuckles. He said, we're playing Canada 5 times in exhibition games, and we're going to need those big bodies. And, it was just hilarious. But Joe Otto was a really, what an awesome teammate, awesome guy. So,
yeah, his mom was the Ottos are a big name in Elk River, and she was a gym teacher, and so he's always sent me texts and check in on me. You know, he sent me, a signed cup stick when they won it with the Flames, which I was a little bummed about because he gave them all away and he didn't get one for himself. So like he had to ask if he could get one back.
Oh,
so I
really?
traded him for Flyers. He gave me a Flyers, and there was the Leclerc, Recchi, Forsberg, some other people on that. So it was an okay trade. But yeah, Elk River's kind of got a good history when it comes to hockey. So it takes a lot of pride. A couple other guys that are playing in the league now. So Nick Perbix in Tampa, Nate Prosser played for the Wild and stuff. So it's got a rich history of hockey, which, it's just cool to be a part of that,
Yeah, it is. In Minnesota, certainly, what a great hockey state in the U.S. And being from Massachusetts, from Boston, I remember growing up, and there was somewhat of a rivalry from East and West, right? The Mass guys and New England guys in Minnesota. What's better? Who's better? The guys from the East are tougher. Guys in the West are pussies. Back and forth. And we never. Back then, I played once. We went to Michigan State and played when I played at Northeastern. We went out there on one trip, but now they play more against each other. But that rich history of hockey in Minnesota, you almost grew up having to play hockey, like, right? How was that in your household? Was that the deal, or how'd you get involved in the game?
Yeah, I mean, they do, call it the state of hockey. And I mean, I was thinking when you said that, Nux, about like the Miracle movie, when you watch it and you see the two different factions of, the Massachusetts cats and then the Minnesota guy, clashing and that kind of thing, and the pride that both sides take in their hockey. So, we obviously have a lot of rich history too. And like most hockey players, like I grew up on a pond in Elk River behind the house. Grandpa got me my first pair of skates, and all the neighbor kids would come, and we were rink rats. And, I'd have the jerseys of Mike Madonna or Minnesota North Stars and the Golden Gophers, the Neil Brottons. And and that was kind of just a part of what we did, like our culture on some level. You had the floodlights, you'd skate all night, and it just was a lot of fun. Like I grew up playing a lot of different sports, baseball and football and soccer. And so it was just, that was a big part of my life. And then, just over time, you just realize how important hockey is and just ingrained in culture, which nowadays it's almost flipped a switch where it's you have so many people investing so much money into kids at such a young age where it's like you lose a little bit of that fun for the game and the pressures that go along with it. And it's you have the hockey parents. And so it's like not as many kids skating on the ponds where it shifted a little bit. But for me, I have a lot of good memories of growing up on the pond and skating with the Gustafsons and the kids next door and Elk River. So that's kind of, I got started, 4 or 5 years old doing that.
And you were like a sick receiver in football, weren't you? I read.
I was okay. Like I'd get letters to play college football as a receiver and had a couple records for a little bit. We threw a lot. We weren't a big school as far as number wise. But yeah, like I was okay, like yards and touchdowns for a while, like they're all broken now. But for me, like I always played football, and then in the spring it'd be, baseball. Or ran a little bit of track and always kept me in shape. And I think those other sports contributed to, being a good all-around athlete, and you learn different things in different sports, like football, you're playing defense and you're learning a little bit of toughness and eye-hand coordination and same with baseball and stuff. So I feel like all those other sports helped me a little bit when it came to being a better all-around athlete and hockey player. But like you guys know, like I was fortunate to not have to specialize in sports at a young age like you do now. You feel the pressure that you need to. Like for me, I didn't play hockey in 8th grade. I played basketball because all my friends were basketball players. So we won the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade state basketball tournament in Minnesota when I was young. And all my friends at the junior high were basketball players. So I didn't play hockey. But that year I'd skate on the pond and realized how much I missed it. So Bantam year I came out and played hockey, and that was obviously a good investment and choice for me with my options. But I was lucky just to be able to have fun when I was younger and play a lot of sports. And I think that really helped me as I did end up specializing in hockey, obviously. So
You're like the white Bo Jackson.
yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's good. Bo. Bo Martin.
Yeah.
Bo,
it's so true when you talk about kids specializing today, because I think back in the day, and I didn't play other sports. I played football a little bit. I played hoop with my friends down the corner, but I played one game in the Boston Neighborhood Basketball League with a bunch of my Irish friends, and we played a team from Roxbury, which was a black section of Boston at the time. And they were all black kids, and they wanted me to come out and be the hacker, and I was the hacker, but I can't play basketball. Talk about a dopey white kid out in the basketball. I was brutal. I can shoot and stuff, but dribbling the ball, and it was like handling a puck for me. It was difficult. But
it ruined your All-Star appearance.
Yeah, it did. It did. I broke my ankle playing hoop.
Yeah.
91.
Yeah, we'd get hurt too sometimes in college or playing hoops, and that's where I got my nickname Pistol, was from playing like Pistol Pete, which you probably have heard that before.
Yeah.
And then, like you're talking about dopey hockey players playing basketball, like a lot of guys are going up for layups with their wrong hand, right?
Oh, yeah.
And it's not attractive and doesn't look athletic at all. But I was somewhat okay, so they thought that I was good to give me that nickname or whatever. But there definitely were rolled ankles and some injuries where we had to stop playing like once the season started, because not the most fleet of foot.
Yeah. So you go through the high school, now played high school hockey, and then looking at off to college was University of Minnesota the one school you wanted to go to, or did you have offers from different schools, and what made you choose Minnesota?
Yeah, good question. I was somewhat sheltered and a homebody as a kid. I feel like we'd go over to Grandma and Grandpa's and we'd watch the Gophers growing up, the Mike Crowleys and Neil Broughtons and Jordan Leopold, a lot of names, and so that was always, and it's on TV every Friday, Saturday. So I'm like, this is something that I want to do, and not knowing that I'd have that opportunity. So like, I think the recruiting piece, and when it came time, like North Dakota, St. Cloud, there's some other good schools in the area. So I got, letters from every school, and I knew I'd stay around Minnesota. I didn't want to go hang out with the East Coast pricks, and the Michigan kids and that kind of stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
That's okay.
So just because I just was always like that. So when it came time, I remember going into Don Lucia's office, and my mom was with me at the time for a visit, and she said, whatever you do, make sure you don't commit, because there's other schools to go visit and talk to. And I'm like, yeah, I got it. And so we sit down, and Don says, so do you want to be a Golden Gopher? And I'm like, yep. And that was it. So like, I feel it just came from somewhere where it was meant to be. And, the Gophers, I've always had a different kind of reputation, but also not liked by every other school.
Yeah, by us.
By Duluth.
You guys.
Yeah. And, the Gopher, yeah. And similar, Minnesota, Duluth, Minnesota, Minneapolis, whatever, so a lot of rivalries, and I always saw a lot of other teams' best games. And so, I mean, we had good matches with the Bulldogs and Timmy and stuff. So it's college hockey is good. It's only growing too. You're seeing a lot more teams. So it was something that was an easy decision for me at the time. So.
Yeah, you guys were like brainwashed. You guys were like Rudy going to Notre Dame. Like,
yeah.
No, I'm serious.
Yeah.
Like, I was blown away when I went to Duluth. I had no idea like how crazy. Like, students were running to their dorm rooms to watch fucking high school hockey, which is insane to me. Like, because in Chicago at the time, like even today, like you don't play high school hockey if you want to try to play somewhere. And so, has it always been like that? Like when you were a kid, was high school hockey that big?
Yeah, I mean, I remember getting out of school during the state tournament, like Friday, Saturday, everybody'd skip school, and you'd go to the Met or Civic Center and you'd watch the high school game. So it was always a big show. I think it's changed over the years. Now they have it at the Excel Center, maybe not as many people. The quality is different. You have a lot more kids that are going to juniors and leaving before and after to play hockey otherwise. But at that time, yeah, like kids are skipping school. It's kind of like a little bit of a holiday here. That we take a lot of pride in. So
that's incredible. And I look at growing up in Boston, same thing back in the day. But it's changed. And I say that high school hockey back in the 70s and 60s, you had South Boston, Charlestown, all these neighborhoods of Boston who had their own high schools. So when they would play, like say Charlestown and South Boston, two Irish neighborhoods, when they would play against each other, Boston Arena was full of fans from South Boston and Charlestown. There'd be fights in the state, crazy shit, but really a lot of passion. And then what they did in Boston is they started busing, and they started busing students from South Boston over into the black neighborhood and black kids into South Boston. And it destroyed those sports programs as far as hockey that was so well established, and the rivalries and the passion for it, because now these towns were all broken up, their teams. There's kids from other towns playing and it just didn't work, and it really hurt. But high school hockey's still a big thing in Mass, and certainly the prep schools are huge in New England. So that's a whole different thing. But anyway, so before you go off to Minnesota, you win Mr. Hockey of Minnesota. You were Mr. Hockey in the year 2000. What is that like a huge honor to be named Mr. Hockey in Minnesota?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is. I know, like, it was for me at the time, especially like some of the other names that have won it. A lot of times, though, like Stapes was saying, like it's just a straight shot to go be a Golden Gopher at the time, and it's changed a lot. Now you have kids going all different places because of the opportunities to play elsewhere. And so for me, I think the guys around me, like the way that they put on the event, you get to the state tournament, you win the Mr. Hockey, and it was pretty special. Yes, like I still have the trophy, and I think in Minnesota we definitely view that as something where that you would have gone to Minnesota, and it's changed, but at the time it was pretty unique and special for me, and a nice honor to have. So.
Do you get that? Was that your senior year? You get that? Is that only like a senior year award, or is it?
Yep, it's usually a senior year award. So we went to the state tournament my junior year and took third place, and then my senior year, we lost maybe 2 games all year, and one was to go to the state tournament, and Blaine ended up winning it, who was like Matt Hendricks, Brandon Bochenski. And we had beat them like 7-3 and 8-2 that year. So it was like a bummer to not be able to be in the state tournament and play or whatever. But that was the year that I had won the Mr. Hockey and was going to the Golden Gophers. So it was a big, a little bittersweet, but like definitely exciting when you kind of realize a little bit of your childhood dreams and go play for the Gophers.
Yeah, and play you did, and win you guys did 2 NCAA championships. You made 3 Olympic teams, right? And you played 4 games in 2014. What happened to the other 2 Olympics?
Yeah, so
you didn't play.
Yeah, I mean,
Curious.
Good question. So I have kind of had injuries have been a big part of my story or my journey, which I'm sure you guys are familiar with, right? And it's nothing worse than being out and not being able to compete, and the grind that is getting back is twice as hard as just being able to show up and play. And for me, I talked about my grandpa before, but he was always my biggest fan, and someone that would come to all my games and talk about, playing for Team USA and representing your country, it would be a great honor. I played on a couple USA teams growing up, and was at the World Cup in, I think 04 or 02 maybe in St. Paul here, with like a lot of big names, like 5 guys that got hurt. And so they're like, "Hey, Paul, do you want to come?" And I hadn't skated at all in the summer. So I got to go with, there's Guerin and Kachuk and Modano and Leach and Chelios. And so I get to hang out with these guys, which was really cool, right? Like you get in, you go out, have some beers, and then you get into the sauna at 6 a.m. in Chelly's biking, and is this how you do this? Cause I'm not doing it.
Adonis, the Greek god.
So is this what you're supposed to do? I'm like, all right. But it's just fun to be around those guys. Like I've always been a big hockey fan and wanted to be part of the group and love hockey history. And so just I was the guy getting autographs from everybody, and I'm on the same team, like, "Hey Mo, can you sign my puck?" or with a stick, and Gomer and those guys. So, but I went as a taxi squad member in 06 with Skillsy, Hal Gill, and Matt Cullen. And I was an extra and didn't get to play because nobody was hurt, and they didn't put us in, which was a little disappointing because you felt like with their performance, they didn't play as well. And I didn't get that opportunity. So, but we didn't even get to skate. I think we just ended up drinking wine and eating pasta for 2 weeks. And then after the Olympic break, had to come back and play hockey. They wouldn't let us skate. Which was interesting getting back. So anyways, yeah, and in Vancouver then in 2010, I think that was, I had broken my forearm and it didn't heal on its own.
The one up
top. Is that the,
that's the radius, I think. The
radius. Yep. So Bill Guerin took a one-timer when we were in Pitt, and it was a terrible one-timer, and it just hit me right in the forearm. It wouldn't even have hit the net. But then I went out, and you just numb it, right? Like you're like, "Oh, this is fine." So they spray it up, and you go back out, and then go into the net with Matt Cook, and I got a whack, and it just broke. And
that hurts.
So it was a bummer because they wanted to heal on its own in 10 weeks, and then it didn't in 10 weeks. And so they had to go back in and re-break it, which I've already been. You go in New Jersey, you're always in the workout room before everybody's coming in, and you're out of there if you're hurt at the time. And so it's like you're in there from 5:30 to 8:30 and out of there, which was a tough time. I think, when you love being around the guys and you're not allowed to be around them, and you've just for 3-4 months, you're just training by yourself, was not a lot of fun. And then, you're not going to make the Olympics. So Whit went and took my spot. And they won the silver medal. So that was kind of disappointing, for me to not be able to go and participate and be there, and then shortly after that, my grandpa passed. And so it was kind of a tough time in my career in general, just not even because of the Olympics. But the fortunate thing is in 2014, then Bob Bilesma was the coach. I was in Pittsburgh. I was playing good hockey at the time. And they brought me along, and Tony Granato, and I was able to stand on the blue line for the anthem, and all my family came over. And it was really a special moment for me just to finally have that dream realized after, 8 years, 12 years. And to be able to play, and played 3 games maybe, and then broke my hand in the third game and didn't get to play against Team Canada, which is, I guess if you're there, that's a team you want to play and compete with. So, the ups and downs, but I mean, on the bright side, we got to hang out with the Olympic curlers and get to meet some of those guys, John Schuster, whatever. And, stuff like that. So have been able to meet them. And I was always wondering why they could drink beers the night before a curling match. And evidently that's not that big of a deal in curling. But yeah, so I was fortunate to play in that Sochi Olympics and just get the nod for that. But it was a grind trying to get to that point.
That's awesome, though, that you get to represent your country. Tim has. It is something to put that jersey on, and good for you getting that opportunity. The food, it was the first time in Russia?
It was I was in Moscow for World Juniors at 18, and yes, but Sochi was a little bit different. I think they put out some better options. Yes, I think they did a better job. But it was weird because they implanted the whole Olympic Village. So at the time when we got there were like the dorms with some didn't have doorknobs, doors didn't have doorknobs on them, and like they're trying to put up hotels. So they were scrambling to do it. But like for the most part, the food was pretty good for Russia.
Yeah,
How about
Sochi.
the first time?
Sochi's nice though. Sochi's nice.
Yeah, it's a nice spot, like right on the coast there, a nice
Yeah.
area. They just didn't have the infrastructure like some of the buildings there.
Shocker.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Putin couldn't kill enough people in time to get it finished.
Yeah.
To spook everybody.
There was a funny video of, because we played Russia there and they had like an open hockey game and Putin was skating around and like not the best skater, I'm making sure that he's not going to watch this, right?
We'll
and,
edit this.
Yeah, everybody's like,
he might watch this. And he's gonna come after me.
And completely understand. And he'll totally understand it too.
yeah, everybody's like skating around him, giving like a token poke check.
Oh yeah, they all suck his.
Yeah.
They all suck up to him.
Yeah, nobody's taking the puck from him. Like he scores and he celebrates, and it's just like weird.
He looks so feeble for such a fucking tyrant. He's
Right?
so feeble looking up. Do you ever see the one where he's skating around? He goes over the rug. He hits the rug and falls down. Like fucking almost every guy in the ice goes over.
No one laughed.
Almost every guy in the ice goes over to pick him up,
Yeah.
like help him up. Like poor
crazy.
Vladimir fucking fell on the ice. Holy fuck.
As if you laugh, you might be taken out.
Yeah.
Like, fuck.
Yeah, you're gonna get fucking what is it? Plutonium or pneumonium in your Gatorade, whatever the fuck it is.
Oh yeah, plutonium or something like that.
Yeah, that he poisons everybody with. But anyway, Vladimir, we love you. Yeah.
These are facts.
Yeah. So, off to the NHL. You win those 2 championships, Minnesota. And I was going to ask you to shave your face before you came on this podcast today, because usually we want everybody clean shaven. Lou Lamoriello. You're going to play for Lou. You're a second rounder. Drafting. Wait, you had aspirations, obviously, playing in the NHL, but how about the draft? Did you go the draft, and were you thinking you could be a first rounder, second rounder? Did you have any idea?
I really didn't. Like, I think I was unaware of what type of player I was. I never saw myself as somebody that was, that good of a player per se. I mean, I think, you listen to some of the noise when you're interviewing for the draft, getting prepared. I was older for my grade, so I was getting drafted out of high school, which I feel like wasn't necessarily maybe looked at as much, or but I would, the treadmill test in New Jersey, like they came in, I did that, and I had ran track before, so I knocked that out of the park. Like I was a competitive kid, and so I think like even they have the combine, and so like at that time back then, you didn't have an agent until you went to sign, or like an advisor. But the person that I was talking to said, should you go to the combine? And I'm like, well, I can't even do a pull up. I weigh 164 pounds. And he's like, well, then don't go. And so I never went, because I feel like that would have hurt the draft status if you can't even bench your own weight. I was a little slower developer. But I was drafted in the second round. The thing, Jersey had, I think, 3 other picks before me. It was one of those drafts where I felt like they were maybe taking a chance on, a high school kid. Because of a couple tests, and they do the psych or whatever. And so it was definitely an interesting process, but just to get selected by that organization is I think pretty fortunate, because of, I love Lou. He gave me the first opportunity, and, some people, like him or hate him. Like he's done a good job at winning, bringing people together, I feel, and winning championships and Stanley Cups. And so, it was a good organization for me because they were patient with me. You go in there and you have Larry Robinson and Jacques Laperriere, and who was
Lappy.
Come
to the corner, 3-on-3 down low. Do you do 3-on-3 down low? Huh? You take the right guy. Each man, 3-on-3 down low. Each man take a guy.
And just just a character. And like, I appreciated him because I didn't have a hard shot, and like there's things you need to work on. And like I'd come into a decor with Scott Stevens, Scott Niedermeyer, Brian Rafalski, Colin White, like they just had won a cup. And so like they're giving me time and patience. And so I'm out with Lappy every day for 30 minutes after practice. I don't think many people get that opportunity.
Right.
And I'd come off a shift in the game and he'd be like, Paul, you shoot like pussy. And so he'd say it all the time. And I'd be, like that's just the way that it was. And I'm like, all right, well, I got to start working on my shot, and just to be in that environment, like pretty fortunate. David Hale was there with me, and we'd take turns getting scratched and watching from the booth. And so I don't think a lot of people get that opportunity. And you're playing with Scott Stevens for the first half of the year. That was the year after. Halfway through, he ended up hanging him up. But yeah, it was an honor just to be drafted by New Jersey. I know you said the clean shaven. That's why I have long hair today, just because I'm rebelling against having to have short hair, because I got a tiny head, and if I have short hair, I don't look good. So I need to have a little bit of stubble and hair. But it was a great experience to be there. Broder and all those guys
they had quite an organization, and it all turned around for Lou when he hired Lemire, no question. I coached there 1 year and was gone afterwards. I had a assistant coaching job. I took Larry's place, and the players felt as though they had 2 head coaches, which I certainly can understand that now. I wasn't a good assistant coach.
What year was that, Nux?
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I coached, I think it was, was it 97, I think, right around there. A couple guys certainly didn't like me on that team. Johnny McClain and Dano, because I had issues. I had issues with them on Scott Stevens, same thing. They made it they were real resistant to me, which I understand, because I was a prick on the ice against them, and I was taking Larry's place, and I really don't have the personality to be an assistant coach, and it didn't work. So nothing against Lou or anybody there. I just was not an assistant coach. And Lemire, I absolutely loved and looked up to him in so many ways. He was just so good to me, that guy. I absolutely loved him. But anyway, so you had Larry to start, then Lou, and then Claude Julien, then Lou again, then Sutter and John. What's that? I mean, you must have been scratching your head. You come in the NHL and, you get drafted by the Devils, and the first 6 years of your career, you got fucking different coach every time you turn around. How difficult was that?
Yeah, I think, as you guys know, like every coach is different with their personalities and how they relate to players and how they coach, which I think that is important when you have good assistant coaches, or like for me, like Pat Burns was the coach my first year. And
Burnsy was.
yeah, and he didn't
Yeah.
say a word to me all year, which was weird, which I think was designed by Lou to be like, you know what, let Larry and Jock handle them. Because I was wet behind the ears. I wasn't a big, tough kid. You know, Burnsy was a little more, you know, rough around the edges, but see some snarl, and that wasn't me at all, you know. So, like, I think he had to kind of stay away. And at the end of the year, like, me and David Hale, he wouldn't talk to us, or you could see him push buttons of guys, you know, like the skill guys, Elias Gomer, to get him going, and just certain guys like that. But he left us alone. And at the end of the year, Lou came up to me and David Hale and he said, "Hey, Burnsy wants to take you guys out to dinner." And we're like, "What? Okay." And then 10 minutes later, Pat comes up to me and David and says, "Hey, Lou wants me to take you guys out for dinner."
I have to do this.
Yes, and it was so, it was, you know, and I love Pat, like I just didn't really know him that well, and then he got sick shortly after. But obviously he's you know, revered as a really good coach, and but like he's like, "Yeah, I just want you guys to know, you know, we need you guys to play well in the playoffs." And like, it was the shortest conversation, but then we still had to sit there like at Nero's for like 45 minutes to an hour and eat and like try to like have a combo with somebody you haven't talked to all year. It was so uncomfortable, but you know, to have the assistance was helpful.
I was there at the end, right? Like Burnsy was in the minors my last year when I was in Montreal before I got traded, right, to the Rangers. And Perron was the coach. I get traded to the Rangers, and then he gets fired after I get traded, not long after. And then Burnsy comes up. I would have been perfect with fucking Pat Burns. It pissed me off so bad because I get traded. Plus, I was hurt. I was a wounded puppy. I was devastated, actually. But Burnsy, I end up going to New York to Boston, and then I get picked up on waivers by Montreal my last year, 92. And I come back, and Burnsy's the coach. He's at the end of his rope there. But when I come back to Montreal, Serge Savard says to me, "Listen, big boy, you're coming here. I want you to be a leader. I don't want you in the bar and fucking around, and you be a leader. No cause no problem." I said, "Okay, no problem," you know. So I go get a furnished apartment and building a block away from the Forum. Who lives in the same building? Burnsy. So we have the fucking test. The next day we got tests, you know, where you got to skate a mile, the rink, the sit-ups, the push-ups, the pull-ups, all that bullshit. So we practice, and Burnsy comes in. We got tests tomorrow, so the only time we'll be on the ice is to skate. We're not having a practice, so fine. After practice, he comes up to me. He says, "What are you doing tonight?" I said, "Oh, I'm going to dinner. I'm just going to go grab a bite to eat, blah, blah, blah." He said, "Well, I'm going out for dinner. You're coming with me." So we go out. He's got a couple of broads. We go to dinner. He said, "Let's go. We're going to one of my favorite spots, La Pasha Club." And it was all older broads, divorced, you know, La Pasha disco. And here I am, fucking, we're half lit after we leave the restaurant. We stayed there till 4:00 in the fucking morning. And I'm there. I got the test. So, I don't care about the test. Fuck the test. I don't care. Do one push-up. Yeah, I don't give a shit. We're at 4:00 in the morning doing shots. We take a cab home. I can see you in the morning. He said, "I won't be there." I'm there, you prick. So I got up and I never felt so fucking sick in my life. I'm doing the sit-ups, and the kid's holding my legs, and I'm fucking just spewing booze on them, right? And then I got to skate the mile. And Carbonneau, who was my centerman before I left, is still there. And we're going, and Cabo fucking lapped me. And I was skating around. I'm going, fuck, my career is over. This is it. Cabo fucking just lapped me. I'm fucking done. And I was after that. It wasn't my last year, but yeah, like Burnsy, that was my dinner with Burnsy. And I loved him. I just wish I could have played for him when I was there in my prime, you know, because it would have been a fucking match made in heaven. But anyway, they got sidetracked on that one for sure. So you leave the pesky Devs, and on to Pittsburgh. You spent 5 years there, San Jose. I don't want to just go through your whole career, but we're going to go. You know, you had a good run. There's no question about it. San Jose, you get there. You know, a couple years. What went on in San Jose? I think I read somewhere, I heard somewhere, there was some issue going on with Pete DeBoer, the coach. Is there any truth to that?
You know, I mean, I think, you know, getting to San Jose, like, it was a great, like, we ended up making it to the Cup my first year, you know, and we lost to the Penguins, who I just had spent 5 years with, Sid and the crew, and that
must have sucked.
Yeah,
that
how
was,
hard was that?
That was difficult. I definitely drank a lot more than usual after that year. And it was, tough when you spend 5 years with guys, and it's partly your decision, right? Like, I thought like a change of senior would be good for me. We hadn't really gone far in the playoffs. We lost to Boston in the conference semis one year. And then we make it, you know, with Thornton and Marlowe.
So that was your decision to leave Pittsburgh?
Yeah, I mean, I had the opportunity to come back, yeah. And I just, you know, we just started talking to other teams, and I'd never been out on the West Coast. And I loved the guys in San Jose, Brent Burns, et cetera, and Joe Pavelski and Couture, and like, all right, we'll have a good opportunity here. And we did. We made a really good run. And I think Pete has changed a lot over the years, like his mentality as far as coaching, and now like how he deals, you know, with the veterans and how he puts them in charge. And, you know, at the time, he was away from his family.
Was he like Burnsy? Sorry, Paul. Was he like Burnsy a little bit? Hot ass?
A little bit like hard nose, yeah. And he was a little bit of a yeller, which I've never really been a fan of coaches that yell, because it's like you're from the bench. It's like you got to be able to coach and like trust your players on some level. And like, I understand certain times you might have to yell, but like when you're yelling at younger guys, it doesn't help them in their development. You know, and coaches are like that, but like Pete and I, like looking back, like I don't think there was anything where we didn't like respect each other. Like I've shared, I was going through some tough times, especially at the end of San Jose, drinking and dependent on pain medication and just trying to get to the rink in the morning, you know, and so I wasn't happy in my environment, you know, like I wasn't pleased. Yeah. I just had ankle surgery.
Appreciate the honesty.
Yeah. Playing with, you know, not many ligaments in my ankle. So I had surgery, and there just was a lot where I wasn't at my best, you know, looking back, it's like, that's the frustrating part. And so like, I mean, going through like some of the work that I've done, you realize like a lot of it is my own stuff, you know, like, and the ownership that you take, and a lot of people are doing the best they can. Like I know Pete was away from his family, you know, with Spotter, and that wasn't easy for him, you know, the grind of a pro season. And if coaches, if you're not taking care of yourself either, that's, you know, things, you know, come out, and the way that you behave is different. And I know that he's changed a lot, and we've had a conversation since where it's like, I don't have any resentment.
That's awesome.
Or any coaches. Like I know that they want to win. It's their job, you know, to try to get the best out of their players. And a lot of times I wasn't capable of being the best, which is more frustrating for me, like looking inside, than it is, you know, it's like not pointing fingers at anybody else. So
exactly what I went through the same thing, that whole thing with Lou in New Jersey that one year. And you know, I wasn't happy at the time, but when I really had that self-reflection and looked inside, it was me. It wasn't Lou. It wasn't Jacques. It wasn't Dano. It wasn't McLean. It was me. I wasn't a good assistant coach. And you gotta be honest with yourself. If you're not, this is not making any progress at all. And I certainly had to do that. So that's good to hear.
Did you both know that or realize that, like, how long after? You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, I feel like he'd probably be someone I should connect with, you know, and just because, you know, going through the program, like I've made amends to most people. Like there's people that I haven't made amends to, and they're the ones that keep popping up. And I know that I have to have a conversation with. I don't think there's any ill will or poor feelings. Like I loved Lou and the crew there. You know, I have no, like you said, Nux, like doing the self-reflection and going through the work. Like I wasn't at my best, and Doug Wilson was great during that process. You know, so I think it's more like, you you realize your part, like, and if I'm not showing up as my best self, like anything that I'm, doing or saying, like I was pretty quiet because I was just battling getting to the rink in the morning and trying to, make it, do the little things to stay in the lineup, and Pete's trying to put the best product on the ice. My last year in San Jose, I was sent down, playing for the Barracuda, which was my first time playing in the minors. And it actually was a really fun experience, for me, and being able to skate with some of the guys that were trying to make it up, and kind of refreshed me a little bit. And I knew kind of the writing was on the wall because I got bought out that summer, but I still wasn't ready to hear it. Like, I didn't get in shape. I didn't do anything
You're never ready, right? You're never ready to hear it. You're never ready. You can say you're ready. You can think you're ready, but you're never ready when it happens. And there's no question about it. And I want to get to that. You talked about the drinking and the pain pills, which I partook in all that. When I played hockey, I didn't. One time I took Percocet when I played. I broke my arm in Montreal. I was playing for the Rangers, and they gave them to me because they couldn't cast me because I was flying the next day. So I broke my arm, I snapped in half, and they put me in a ace wrap, and they gave me a bottle of Percocet, and I took them that night, and we stayed up playing cards till like 4 a.m. Flew home the next day, and I got in a cab and threw up right away. I was going to get the cast on.
You took the whole bottle? You took the whole bottle?
No. But I didn't take them as directed, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
But I threw up on the GM. He was taking me to the hospital, Neil Smith, and I just popped on him. Anyway, but I look over the course of my career. You don't mind talking about this, do you, Paul?
No, not at all. No.
Being up front. Okay.
Yeah,
I just want to make sure. Well, God, when I look back at my career and how much I drank during my career, and back then, right, the 70s, it was into the 80s, like it was almost a given that you had to drink. Like every day we had lunch across the street after practice. You had to show up. Now, you didn't have to drink, but what the hell are you going to do? You're a bunch of hockey players having lunch. Guys are going to have a few beers. The older guys went home after, an hour and a half. Younger guys all went out and continued. Drank after games. I remember going into Buffalo, going into whatever team on the road, and you always talk to the locker room attendant, throw me 6 beers in my bag. So every guy had a bag, fucking 6 beers in my bag. So we go get on the bus and drink. And that all kind of changed. Montreal, they never had alcohol in the locker room. The only time you could drink in the locker room is if you won the Stanley Cup. Now, I was shocked. I went to the Rangers when I got traded for Caps again. They're drinking beers in the locker room right after. I'm like, what is this? I just never saw it in hockey. I knew in Boston, they had a fridge in the locker room full of beer. And they used to sit around afterwards, play cards, have a few beers, then go across the street. And then Craig McTavish, former Bruin, Oiler, was going home one day after practice, and he rear-ended a woman in a car, and she lost her life. And then I think that got the attention of the league and all the teams, because there was, lawsuits involved and all that stuff. And I think things started to change a little bit that way. But when I think about the amount of alcohol I drank throughout my career to deal with a lot of the stuff I was dealing with that I didn't know how to, whether it was being alone after a game and, my hands are all cut up and sore and I'm beat up and not feeling good. But it was just a great way for me to kind of unwind. And it helped me get through a lot of shitty nights. There were a lot of great nights, but a lot of shitty nights that the alcohol helped me get through. The drugs for me didn't come till retirement. Like I said, that one time in my career, I did those pills. And then, boy, surgery after surgery, Percocet, then eventually led to the Oxycontin, and then off and running. Through your career, like you're saying you took pills during your career. Like, when did that come about in your career? Like, was that in the drinking? Was that from the get-go? Was the alcohol involved? And then did it progress and get worse near the end? How'd that go? If you can kind of
good
run
question.
through that.
I mean, similar to what you were saying, Nux, like I think early on, like the lifestyle, come from college, we drank a lot. It was just fun. It was fun, binge drinking or whatever. And then getting to the pros, it was a little more professional nature, but, and we didn't have beer on the bus or weren't allowed to. But, guys would always be drinking or find a way. And, part of like you go on the road, you put your bag down, you go eat, you have wine, and the single guys would stay out. For the most part, I remember Scott Stevens was my first roommate, and I think Johnny Mac had done it on purpose, where like he turns the TV off and the lights off at 9 p.m. to go to bed, and like I'm coming from college, and I'm like I don't go to bed till midnight, so who's going to take the remote and turn the TV back on from Scotty? Not me. So everyone's a little different, but for me, I was alone, and so the younger guys, that's what you do to hang out and drink. And it never really became an issue. I think like in 2010, after I missed the Olympics, that's when I was really introduced to pain meds, and my grandpa passed. And so I spent a little time.
Now, was that from, did you break your hand, you said?
Yep. That was before the Olympics, the radius or up top here. And then it didn't heal on its own. So that was the first time being introduced. And at the time, like, you talk about managing and regulating your emotions or feelings. And I think a certain amount, like the alcohol, like was a good way to cope, and not feel things and get through the grind of a season. And it made things easier, or able to get to a certain point until it wasn't. And that was same with kind of the pain medication, where it was very comfortable for me. Like it affected me different, where I felt like I felt a part of something. It was like a safe cocoon. Like I didn't feel as much pain, like a lot of the things that you don't have to think about or deal with. And, it didn't really become an issue at the time because I didn't become dependent on it at that time. Like,
I was going to ask you. So you got introduced in 2008. When did the claws sink in and you couldn't get the claws out?
Yeah, good question. So I think in 2012, I was not enjoying my time in Pittsburgh and was not playing well. And it's a huge sports town. And, you read the papers and the Twitter and all that stuff when you're not playing well, as opposed to when you are. And I wasn't enjoying it there. And it was all a reflection of me and the space that I was in. It had nothing to do with Pittsburgh. And at the end of that year, I broke my foot and was taking pain meds again. And then it was like the blues, like the oxys, which those were extremely dangerous for me. And then that got the claws into me, where I started to see a therapist, was a little more open with about like trying to get help, scared.
Did you understand what was happening to you? Like, because when I was addicted, when I first got addicted to them, I didn't know anything about recovery, or I could go to a rehab and get help or detox from these things. But did you know what was happening when I say that? Like, okay, so I take my 180 Oxycontin pill, and then 4 days later, I'm taking 2. 6 days later, I'm taking 3. When did you realize that, man, I'm addicted to this? The only way I can kind of feel normal is to have more pills. Where was that?
That was, at the end of 2012. And that kind of is where you need it to function, right? Like where it's like, I need this to get up and feel better to go to the rink. But then I started to feel the physical effects of like not feeling like I was as strong or as in good of shape. Obviously drinking and taking pain meds is not advised. And so, I was depressed. Like, the psychiatrist who I was talking to was like, you should be on antidepressants right now. But I'm like, I'm drinking, I'm taking opiate. Like, that's not a good combo. And also, like, I'm a hockey player. Like, I'm not depressed. I can't be, that kind of stuff. Denial, the ego, the control. But it was a scary time because I felt alone, like I couldn't tell anybody. I mean, at the end of the year, it was Ray Shiro who said, Paul, like, I feel like you're not enjoying playing hockey. And like, that hit me because I wasn't. He's like, a lot of people think you're better than Ryan Suter, and it doesn't feel like a good fit. And I was surprised with what I said. I said, you know what, like, I'm going to show you that.
That's in 2012.
That's in 2012 at the end of the year. And I said, this is what's going to happen. I'm going to come back next year ready to play. And I don't think I mentioned anything about getting sober or anything like that, but that's what I did. And
You got off the pills.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay,
and
on your own.
Just cold turkey?
And then, well, no, it was not a fun process. I did have help. And then went to Hazelden in Minnesota, Center City, in that summer for
And
30 days.
Did you keep the hush on that?
Yes,
Or did the
because
team know?
they didn't know. Still had a lot of shame and guilt with that. Like, and that's the sad part is like for a whole year, I pretty much remained sober, but I wasn't. And I played great. Hockey was.
You were hanging on for dear life.
Yes, I was a lot better, but I was white knuckling it. Where I wasn't. I didn't go to meetings and work the steps. Didn't call anybody. Like I was, isolated. I mean, I love the guys. That's what I miss the most about hockey is I was still good with the guys, but I just wasn't in a great space. Internally to do that self-reflection, to realize, why I love the game of hockey and realize it wasn't always about me too, going through all the steps and going through that process. So for the next 3 years, I managed to be fine in Pittsburgh and playing better hockey, going to the Olympics and, had started drinking again, but that was it at the time. So I felt like I was kind of back feeling somewhat normal as a hockey player in person. I just, still felt a little off after, once you go through a process of 30 days of realizing, the where you're at with, opiates and alcohol and the dangers of it, like starting to see as you're drinking more, like the dangers of that and where it led last time. It's not a fun place to be,
Yeah. So you got the help. You get well. When did things turn again? Was it in San Jose? And was it an injury? Was it a surgery?
Yep. It was a combination of things. I think after we lost to Pittsburgh, that was difficult, but I still wasn't taking pain medication. The next year, towards the end of the year, I had a relationship and some personal things going on. Like,
Yeah, great season, 2016, 2017, right?
Yeah, I mean, that was the year I was
81 games.
Yeah, like Bernsey won the Norris. Like I was his partner, so I feel like I take a lot of pride in that. And that was fun to be with him and see him have that success. So that was good. And just that next summer, I had an ankle surgery because I was playing with torn ligaments. So they had to put that together, introduced back to pain medication. And it was not a good end of the summer. I have a mental health foundation for kids called Shine a Light. The T's a 7, and I'm not being an advocate or as a founder of the organization as a good, beacon for what we're trying to do when I can't, manage my own mental health and physical and emotional health. So it was that year, beginning of the year is when I remember it was like the Napa fires and we went up with a group of us to Napa and I was drinking on pain meds. And at that point I was introduced to Xanax, and that's not a good drug. Not that any of them are.
Is there any of them good out there? Which ones are good?
Yeah, which ones are good? I don't know. So I remember coming home from Napa, like I don't feel like I slept for 3-4 days, and there's fires burning in the background, and I just remember like it was very symbolic of like where I was at, realizing I was kind of helpless but not willing to ask for help was difficult. So I went to practice on Monday and had a conversation with Pete DeBoer, and like I knew, like I didn't have it register, because when guys are saying, yeah, you shouldn't be out here, but I'm putting every pass on the tape and I feel fine, but obviously I don't look good. Yeah, they kind of said you shouldn't be out here, and Pete and I just got off the ice and I kind of
like who said that? The coach?
Yeah, well,
why, because of the condition you were in, or
yes, evidently
you were hungover and
yeah, I hadn't slept in 4 days. Like I was, I didn't see it at the time, but Pete.
You thought you were fine, right? Oh, no one knows.
Little
hangover. Hangover.
And I always like part of my thought process. I always like if I'm putting every puck on the hard and on the tape and not getting beat. Like I was, you're just good at that, the robotic piece of that. But I got off the ice and just kind of broke down and started crying, and it was a really, tough moment for me as a hockey player, and like showing that kind of a vulnerability and weakness and talking to Doug. And the frustrating part for me is talking to Doug up in his office and asking if everything's okay, and me saying, I'm going to be okay. I just got some stuff going on, instead of being able to say, you know what, Doug, I'm really struggling. I need some help. Can you help me? And still to this day, like, I don't know, like that piece inside of me, and you guys know, like, it takes what it takes, but like, it's still like, there's always opportunities to, where you wish you would have done things different, obviously. And it was not a bad, like the next, rest of the year, Brian O'Reilly, came in, and we did some breath work and some beam work, and, talked a little bit about other things besides alcohol, but like, I was able to get into a good place. And by the end of the year, I was playing again and playing decent hockey with Burnsy, and feeling good about myself. And then I think just the writing was on the wall, the end of that year, where I got bought out. And, that was hard for me too, because of the ego piece. Like I was still playing good hockey, I felt, but like, I knew I wasn't in a good spot still, because I wasn't doing anything besides playing hockey. I wasn't, working a program, going to meetings, getting a spot, doing the things that.
How old were you there when you retired your last year?
Yeah, 37.
37.
And that last year, you were fine? Like, I mean, sober at least, or were you in the mix?
Until the end of the year, when we had lost in the playoffs. And then I don't know. I just assumed I was getting bought out. Like, hockey was love-hate for me at times, because of injuries and because of myself putting myself through the grind, where I'm like, I don't know if I want to play anymore. My body is not what it used to be. But then the other voice on the other shoulder saying, wow, you still got a lot to play. You love the game, and it's an internal struggle, because like, I don't know how much I love the game as opposed to love being around the guys. And that's just what I've been doing.
And the paycheck, right?
The paycheck.
Yeah. And the guys.
Yeah. And it's like, you're like, I love, yeah. It's like, but what else am I going to do?
The identity piece is huge. Identity is huge. Who am I? What else am I good at? Probably not a lot,
Yeah. I was just going to say, like, did you go on, like, when you got done retiring, was it just game on after that with substances and drinking?
Yeah. So then after I was bought out, like for the next 6 months, like I wasn't training, I wasn't working out. Like, I knew I was done. I felt like I was done. There's that little voice saying, like, you could get in shape and go play somewhere else, which I feel like I'd have been capable of. I just didn't do it. So like, there's things like I was saying before, like, I wish I would have, done things differently. But I drank. And at that point there was, pain meds, cocaine, like it was a mess. I gained 25, 30 pounds, a huge beard.
Hey, Fat Albert.
Yeah. Well, the reason I ask is because obviously I know your story and got to know you, but you did this article I read in 2018 on The Athletic, right? And I was like reading that, and it was awesome. It was like all these guys, Pavelski, all these guys were just saying the most amazing things, saying things that I would say about you. Today. And I was just wondering, like, when you did that, where were you at when you did that? Do you remember, you know what I'm talking about? The article?
Yeah, that was in St. Paul here in Minneapolis.
Were you in trouble though? Like, were you in the hard? Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think at that point I had the hard part, like the next year when it came out the next year, I had been out to California, with the Hockey Docs and Dan Cronin and Lewis, who I really respect, and I'm grateful for the opportunities that they've given me and continue to, stick with me through, going in and out 3 or 4 times in the summer, because I still was not willing to submit and surrender to doing things other people's way. And so until I decided to do that, like that article was at the end of that year. So it was weird to be like going through that, and like knowing you're done and what's next. And so for me, I was at a really low point of, all right, like I remember, Marlo, who's a good friend and someone who's been really helpful in my recovery and life, is, would be the guy that would always reach out and say, like, if you don't want to be sober, you don't have to be. But if you feel like you need it or want to, you just got to try to do things a little differently. Like, just, give it a shot. And I did. And I did everything I didn't want to do at first. I went to an outpatient facility, a sober living, where I was in a 10 by 10 garage with Tall Robert, and see therapy, a spiritual advisor. I just did everything because I'm like, why not? And it was hard because you're down deep in the mud, going through that stuff of regret and shame and guilt. And seeing yourself like that is not an enjoyable process. Looking at like I'm weak, or I can't take care of myself. And it also reminded me of the power of addiction. And the hold it can have, and the struggles, and the ability to be open and say I need help, and sit in that space with other people doing the same thing, and learn a lot from so many people that have the courage to voice those things. And I was lucky to be able to stay out in California for a year and get sober before I came back and have that time, and just so grateful for all that the time, and continue to work the steps and have a sponsee. And we have a group of guys that show up every week to have a conversation, and it's just something that has grown for me to be in this space. And over time I've learned to value my experience, and not have those regrets, and just be present with myself. And I think like the hardest thing is figuring out what to do next. So I've been here at the University of Minnesota coaching, as player development, finishing my degree, my master's, and doing some transition work. And so it's been a lot of things that I didn't think I'd be doing, like going back to school and starting groups and work coaching and stuff. So I'm just, grateful for the process and everything I've been through. It's weird because I don't talk about a lot of it that much, but it's feel grateful to be where I'm at now compared to where I was.
Yeah, and it's a credit to you. And I gotta echo what Tim said, because, listen, I never met you other than our times together and these things we have done together. I won't say much more than that. That we've only met online. But when I read that Athletic and read what your teammates had said about you, and listen, most teammates aren't going to throw a guy under a bus anyway. But the words, the content that each guy mentioned, from Pavelski to Brett Burns to Stalock to Logan Couture, it struck me in meeting you online and reading that, what Brett Burns said, that you are the most genuine human being he's ever met. And he had a tear in his eye saying it. And that, for me, just knowing you like I have, that rings true. And I think it just says a lot about you as a person and a human being, certainly. Battling through the things you had to. I mean, the three of us have a lot of similarities, more so than differences. And, I just, it's just Mr. Genuine. Forget about Mr. Hockey, Mr. Genuine here with us. And I just think it's so cool. That was just, it was awesome. And to have a career like you've had, incredible career. Yeah. You said no Stanley Cup, and how difficult, that was a difficult time, being in San Jose, playing against your former team and going through all the stuff you've been through. I just think to come out on the other side like you have, just a credit to you, and God bless you. Like, really, not an easy thing.
I think it's powerful, that Athletic, of knowing your story, because there's all these things being said about you that, like Nux just said, like I'm reading it and I'm like, this is exactly the guy I met, right? Like this is, but probably for you at that time is probably hard to read, right? Like you're like, no one knows, right? That everyone's reading that and they're like, this guy's the man. But like you personally are at a low point. My point is that is who you are, right? And
it was shining through, right? It was
like,
shining
like,
through all
and
that.
It's like you can get help and you can better yourself and be, you probably didn't believe it at the time, I'm guessing, when you actually read that, like you're doing that and you're probably like feel like you're lying almost, right? But it is really who you are. And I think that, it was really cool to read that for sure. And obviously like to know who you are today and get to know you. It's awesome stuff.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know like that is difficult because it's kind of like a internal conflict of who you are, right? Like as far as battling with, alcoholism, addiction, and still being able to think of yourself as a good person, who has integrity and is honest and is a good friend. And I think maybe even you become hyper-focused because that's one thing like I always prided myself on or wanted to be as a good teammate and be there for the guys, right? And especially the younger guys, helping them fit into the league and get their spots and encourage them and motivate them. And I think because I've had people do that for me. And so I think within the hockey community, there's so many genuine people who are looking out for each other, because you're going through this grind with them and it's not easy. So to have people that you can depend on and show up for you and have some laughs with is really important. And that's kind of what I miss the most. I miss being in the locker room with Bernsey and Thornton and, Sid and Gino, just all the guys, because that's, you're just a little kid having fun. And so just that conflict it's, I think over time you realize still like the person that you are and being able to show up as that person. Like I know service for me is important and being able to give back the gifts that I have, even whether it's for coaching or in the rooms and it's unfortunate to be able to do that after those lessons and still have something to offer. And I talk to those guys every once in a while via text or a phone call and I miss them. It's weird because you don't really get those experiences back.
Right.
And that's the way it's like the competitive piece is like, it's hard to find that kind of energy or connection in most things when you're done. It's hard to.
So fleeting, right? And when you get around hockey guys again, it's just there's that feeling,
awesome.
right?
Yeah.
When you get around hockey guys, there's just a feeling that can't explain it to anybody, but it's there. I don't care. You can be around guys you never played with and feel that. I know I have, and it's special. So now, Paulie, you're a graduate assistant back at University of Minnesota, coaching, which is awesome to be around the game that you love. Now that you're in recovery, you must feel like you have a whole, forget about the hockey part, because you have that. You have the hockey part. You know how to talk hockey. You know how to talk your position. You know how to help players that way. But how valuable is it for you to be able to have the tools of recovery in your bag now when you're talking to a kid on the rink? Because you talk about a coach yelling. You didn't like coaches yelling. How cool is it to have that in your toolbox now, to be able to work with these young kids and maybe teach them more than just hockey?
Yeah, I love that question. And it has been like a gift. Like, I think to be able to see things maybe a little differently, like a bigger picture and what you can control. And that's, I think, what kids even need more than they need hockey advice is they just need someone to talk to, and ask questions. And because nowadays you have a skills coach, a skating coach, you have 5 different cooks in the kitchen telling them, what they need to do. And just so hyper focused on hockey, where it's like there's life outside of hockey, and sometimes not always focusing on the hockey piece makes you a better hockey player. And for these guys, coming here, they're all motivated and want to learn and dedicated, and coming to school and navigating social life and I'll often have just kids come up to me and talk to me about things that don't have anything to do with hockey. And so you feel like you have a little bit to offer in that case, and some things to share as far as what would be maybe beneficial to do and what not to do in certain circumstances. And it's a different type of conversation, and looking even at hockey piece, like, I mean, you guys you played, and for me, it was weird to be able to coach something or express something when you're just used to doing it, when you're just used to playing, and you rely a lot on instincts and feel, and reads. And a lot of the times it's kind of like, unless you're in that situation where the systems piece is I work more like, I feel like, with the individual, and getting guys, into a good spots, like mentally, and being able to kind of come out and play, without having too much on their mind. So it's a really fun to look at it that way, as an assistant coach, or someone that they just can have, a ear to ask questions to. And so I've benefited a lot. I've learned a lot from them too. Like, I ask them a lot of questions, because I one thing I know is I don't have it all figured out, and I'm always learning and new things. And it's like someone's always trying to reinvent the wheel and with certain things. And so for me, it's been fun to learn from these guys too.
I was laughing in my head because I was just picturing if we saw like video of you coaching and you're just an absolute psycho.
Yeah.
Screaming at kids.
Screaming like,
do it right. Do it fucking right.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, that'd be amazing.
Oh, that's so funny, because you talk about that. I remember my first year. We had a coach, Bert Templeton. Remember the junior hockey team, Canada? They had the big brawl in Russia. He coached them, and Bert was known for that. He loved fucking tough teams, loved tough guys, but he didn't like college kids. And Timmy Burke, Paul, right?
Yeah.
Berkey was my roommate, very good friend of mine. And Berkey was my roommate in Halifax my first year. And I was only there half the season, but he told me, he said, Chris, coming out here, I didn't know anything about pro hockey. He said, listen, here's the deal. This coach, he hates college kids. So just do yourself a favor. Don't be first in line. Don't fuck up any drills, blah, blah, blah. I'm okay. So the kid from Merrimack, Richie Costello, and poor Rich, he wasn't, he's kind of shy, quiet kid, not, a gregarious hockey guy or athlete and nothing like that. Just a nice kid. And he goes first in line and fucks the drill up. Well, Templeton goes, fucking Costello, you fucking dumb fuck. You fucking college kids are supposed to be fucking smart. Get in the end of the fucking line, you idiot. And fucking poor Rich, like, that kid fucking melted into his skates. He was gone the next day. Gone. Like, see you fucking later. I felt so bad for the kid. And Berkey, I mean, he put it to me. He said, this guy. And then once I started fighting, he liked this college kid. You know, it was crazy. There was a tale of two personalities and two different type players. So, you're so right about it. I hated that too. I hated when fucking coaches on the other team yelled at players on the ice. I fucking hated that. I like to grab them right by the fucking tie and mush them. But, certainly when you're yelling at your own players, I didn't have many coaches who did that, which was a good thing, but
I wonder why.
I don't know if they were
why.
I don't think they're somewhat still smart to not do that.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, Paul, listen, awesome. And before I let you go, I want you to talk about Shine a Light a little bit. Shine a Light 7 Foundation that you put together. Just give us a little, overview of what you guys do and why'd you do it?
Yeah, so I mean, it's shinealight.org, and the T in light is a 7. That was a number I had. And, when I grew up in Minnesota, there was like the Mark Parishes, Danny Heinold, Sean Podines, guys that had foundations that something was dear to their heart, cancer, military members, et cetera. And for me, we had lost a couple cousins to suicide and a close family friend in high school and college. And that was something, the suicide prevention, anti-bullying, which Shine a Light started as, and has kind of grown into more of a youth mental health awareness and education program, where we work with Masonic Children's Hospital here at the U and Washburn Center for Children, and give them funds for therapy and group therapy. And we really support the music therapy and art programs here. And so we raise money for that. A lot of it's centered around music. The Rolling Stones song "Shine a Light" was at the time relevant to my journey and where was I at when we started it. And so it's just something that keeps me busy and giving back to the community. And mental health is such a big umbrella these days, and so prevalent in being able to give kids tools and access to therapy and opportunities to navigate their experience, through music and the arts. And so we have a fundraiser once a year, and bring in some silent and live auction items and try to get some local celebrities and some musicians there. So something that it's grown a lot. I think when I did get sober for the last time, it was something that I realized was still important to me and had a lot of value and capable of making a difference. So we continue to do that any way that we can.
Yeah, it's so cool to get involved and give back. I get a lot of personal satisfaction out of working. I'm part of a foundation here, the Liam Foundation. I look at what his dad does every day. He got 3 kids. Liam has a mitochondrial disease. He's in a wheelchair. He can't speak. He can walk a little bit. But it's just a wonderful little boy, and he's 9 now. He's supposed to be dead already, and his dad goes to work every day. He has 3 other children, and he just he has his life, and he does everything he can to try and find a cure for this disease that his son has. And I when I met him and saw what he's going through, I'm like, how can I not help this guy? I mean, look all he has on his plate, and this little boy who certainly didn't come into this world with the same opportunity as the rest of us, healthy people. And it just, so it's awesome. It's a good thing to be able to give back in any way you can. And that's awesome you're doing it. I just love being involved like that myself. So anyway, Paulie Martin, just awesome having you, and I really appreciate it. I wish you luck in your coaching career, and hope things go well that way. And good stuff with the foundation. Awesome stuff. It was great to have you today, pal. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, Nux and Stapes. Always a pleasure. Love you guys. I appreciate it.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for listening to Raw Knuckles Podcast. Please like, follow, and subscribe.